Coach really gave us a workout.
It's September 24th, 1955, and America's 34th President, Dwight D. Eisenhower, is unwell. The Allied Supreme Commander in World War II and mastermind of the D-Day invasion was in his third year in the White House, and despite his popularity, at the age of 64, unsure whether he would run for a second term the following year. The previous day, Eisenhower, known to all as Ike, had been playing golf during an extended working vacation in Colorado.
And now, let's enjoy an intermission.
Try our delicious hamburgers.
The hamburger he'd had at lunch was giving him heartburn, or so he thought. He'd gone to bed early but woke at about 2 a.m. with severe chest pain. First Lady Mamie Eisenhower called the president's personal physician, who administered morphine to help the president sleep. It took almost 12 hours for an electrocardiogram to be called for and determined he'd suffered a heart attack. Only then was Ike taken to hospital. At first, the White House played down the seriousness of Eisenhower's condition, telling the press it was a mild coronary thrombosis, a blood clot, when it was a massive heart attack. That lack of candour wasn't so unusual. The American public, members of Congress and even his cabinet had no idea how severe President Woodrow Wilson's stroke had been in 1919. It left him paralysed down one side of his body. People knew Franklin Roosevelt had suffered from polio before he was elected, but the extent of his disability was concealed, as was his advanced heart disease, which saw him die in office in 1945.
And here it is for the first time.
This was a decade later, a decade which had seen the arrival of television in millions of American homes, and with it, an appetite for news.
Other important Washington developments today.
That year, Eisenhower had let cameras into his press conferences for the first time.
Well, I see we're trying a new experiment this morning. I hope it doesn't prove to be a disturbing influence.
Eisenhower had been concerned at the way both Wilson and Roosevelt had misled the public. And besides, he was going to be in hospital for a while, so he decided to lay all of his health cards on the table.
Summoned to the hospital, a famed Boston heart specialist, Dr. Paul Dudley White, declared that prospects were reasonably good for the president's complete recovery.
Paul Dudley White was the best-known cardiologist in America. After tending to the president, he gave the press, and by extension the American people, a long medical lecture-like briefing, taking all of their questions. It was boring, but it was effective.
The chances are that the president should be able to carry on an active life satisfactorily for another 5 to 10 years.
Eisenhower spent more than 6 weeks in hospital, and his return to Washington, D.C. in mid-November was cause for celebration.
I am happy the doctors have given me at least a parole, if not a pardon, and I expect to be back at my accustomed duties, although they say I must ease my way into them and not bulldoze my way into them.
Ike's illness and recuperation had become part soap opera, part public health message, as doctors warned that certain foods, salt and cigarette smoking increased the risk of heart attack.
Ike is relaxed and in high spirits as he arrives in Georgia for a brief vacation. During his stay, the president is expected to make his fateful second-term decision, to run or not to run.
Weeks of speculation followed.
I have nothing to hide here, and I'm certainly not trying to be coy.
Then, finally, in February 1956, 5 months after his heart attack, Eisenhower announced he would run again. And that November, he won a second term in a landslide.
Bless America, my home.